A very good afternoon and welcome to Awake TV. My name's Alan Taylor Shearer and it's 4 p.m. here in the UK. Wherever you are, I hope you are well. And coming up over the next 3 hours, we have news and views on the death of the alleged troll of the McCann family. We have information and an interview about vaccines with a new couple. We have info on chemtrails, and we have something about people who have a messiah complex. Joining me in the studio today will be Cheryl Smale, and Dave Eden will be joining us later on. And don't forget, from 6 p.m. UK time, we turn over to 1800 online across the Awake radio networks, and well, all of them really, and we're glad to have them on board. And if you are hearing the audio, please feel free to join us via the chat box on the Awake Radio website or anywhere that carries the Awake chat box. So, lots to get on with, and we're going to kick off first off with an interview that I did yesterday with a young couple who have just had their first child and are stuck in the dilemma of vaccinate or not to vaccinate. This is what they had to say. Angrad and Matt, tell me about your opinions on vaccination.
I've gone on the internet, looked at all the crazies and the sane people, and made a decision from there, plus as well from family history as well, based on the fact that her dad had whooping cough, and I've had family members that have had polio, and in the village that my aunt had polio in, she was the only one that could still walk out of the two that survived. So I'm a little bit anti-polio.
What research have you done before vaccinating your child?
I did it all. You didn't really.
I read what we got given and stuff that was given
Matt,
to me.
where do you stand on vaccinations then, in general, before we talk about vaccinating Bulgaria?
Necessary evil. I agree with yourself. I think the idea of vaccination is sound. I just disagree with how they're done, so to speak, and what goes into them. Mm-hmm. Because, for example,
what does go into?
Looking at some information that's I found and that was being given to me is they put, for example, mercury in it. As anyone will know, mercury is highly toxic to human life, and as a result of that, you imagine injecting that into your body, you might as well just go get the bleach out of the cupboard and pour it down your throat, as far as I'm concerned. But at the end of the day, if my choice is get my child vaccinated against this disease or have her catch it, because I had whooping cough when I was a baby, and my mum will tell you it almost killed me. And if the choice is between death and a vaccination that might, it's a necessary evil, I'm going to have to get it done, if you see what I mean. But
Tell me about Polgara's first vaccination.
Whooping cough, polio, and a new one they've come out with, which they just sort of
it's an oral
jumped on me.
one.
It's an oral one, which is it's like a syrup, and it's to stop the sickness and diarrhea they get at nursery.
Okay.
They just sort of jumped that one on me, so I've had to research.
Yeah, we
that
sort
one.
of like turned up and they told us about it
Then
there and then, and it just
as they were shoving it
as
down
they were
the
shoving
throat.
it down her throat, so to speak. So
Yeah.
I'm a little bit. Hang on, what now?
Yeah.
So I've not heard about this one, and you're telling me that because we're here, you're doing it.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you realise that before any vaccination, any dose of any vaccination given, you've got to have informed consent from the individual receiving the vaccine? That's in the doctor's rule books.
No.
Didn't know that one.
Okay. So before they gave the syrup to Polgara,
Yeah.
they were supposed to get your informed consent, which means they have to explain all the pros and cons of that vaccine before giving
Just
it to the
basically
child.
They
got
didn't do
told
that.
what it did and what it was to prevent, and that was it.
Right,
Didn't get told anything else. This vaccine is to stop vomiting and diarrhea in nursery. Bugs that go around in nursery.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it, and it's like a syrup, and it goes in, and they take it orally.
But she didn't really say that without shoving it down her throat first.
Do you know what the blue book is?
Blue bug?
Book. The blue book.
Huh?
The blue book is the rules and guidelines that all medical practitioners have to have.
Oh, right.
Have to use before giving vaccines.
No, I didn't know that. I just know about her red book.
And the biggest section of that is about consent, and that's where it states. This is their own rule. This is the medical profession's own rules. They have to give you informed consent, so they have to lay out the positive side effects and the negative side effects.
I did then do research afterwards because she's supposed to get another lot this time round. So I researched it before I'm going to say yes to it, but I have researched it and I'm fine with it because they have had serious bouts of sickness and diarrhea and all that sort of thing that people have ended up in, well, babies have ended up in hospital and stuff. So, you know, I've researched it afterwards and they gave us a leaflet and stuff and just sort of went, you can read this when you leave sort of thing.
Right.
And I was like, okay.
So they've actually done things the wrong way round?
Yes. They sort of bombarded me with the information afterwards after giving it to her and I was like, okay. Thanks for that.
I think that's something that happens to a lot of young parents.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I was a little bit annoyed, to be honest, because I've done all the research on the other injection I was expecting her to have, but then when they're just randomly shoving something down my daughter's throat and I'm just like, what the hell are you doing? She was asleep a minute ago. I thought you were just going to inject her. What are you doing? So yeah, that did annoy me. And had I not been the person I am, I think it could panic some people. Because turning around and saying, oh, well, if you don't give them this, they're going to get sickness and diarrhea.
I wasn't exactly like the bottle was labelled, let's put it that way.
Well, yeah.
Just take this bottle of clear fluid and pour it down your baby's throat. For all I know, like acid.
But, you know, if it was some other parents that, other parents that aren't overly educated when it comes to this sort of thing, you know, a lot of midwives are saying a lot of things to parents that are scaring the crap out of them.
Okay. Yeah, what's this about not tickling a baby's feet?
Apparently, if you tickle a baby's feet before they're 6 months, they will get spina bifida.
This is from our friend Sophie, who is pregnant with her second child, and what she got told by her midwife.
Yeah. Okay. Because I was tickling Pole's feet because it straightens their feet out, because obviously babies twist their feet because they haven't got used to having them flat. So I was doing it while we're out. It's not like I'm sticking a knife in there or anything. I'm just literally going like that down the side of her foot just to get her to straighten it up. Right. And I got, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. Why? And got told that, and I was just like, that's...
Okay, MMR, that's a biggie. What research have you done into MMR?
Well, I've had a look through lots of different stuff. I also read the research from the certain doctor that said that it causes autism, who then got disbarred for it.
Yes.
Because then there was a bout of measles that went round because people were refusing to use the vaccination. Obviously, I've had a look at the pros and cons of it again, and I know there's stuff in it, like he was saying about the certain chemicals in it that I would rather weren't going into my daughter. However, I would really rather she didn't get measles, mumps or rubella. So...
Do you know about the number of children that have autism now that appears to have been caused by the vaccination?
The autism question, because of the fact I do pay attention to my daughter and I am ballsy, if I do see any change at all in her, which I didn't in the last injection she had the injection, she wasn't overly happy that day with me. And if I saw any change in her at all, because she's quite smiley baby at the moment, that would change. She looks me in the eye, that would change. My sister trained in disabled children, so obviously I helped my sister with a lot of her paperwork and stuff like that. So I know what to look for, and I know exactly what the signs are of autism and other disabilities that can be caused, so I would be literally jumping on top of it, but I also know how to deal with it. So if she does end up with autism because of it, if that is something that can happen, then it's something I will deal with, and I'm happy to take that on if it means she doesn't have to have measles, mumps or rubella. So,
do you know that the government has a department which it's set up to deal with vaccination damage?
If the government has had to set up a department where the payout is basically a house, that's a tad worrying about the level of degree of it and about the amount of stuff that's actually happening in regards to the number of people that are obviously having this issue occur, and then obviously going into the nitty gritty of it, they're testing the child and whatnot, they're taking what happened to the child before and how it's after and working out what the cause was. It's kind of worrying that the government's set up this department to do that and then go, okay, cool, this vaccination has caused that. But it also does make me wonder the question of why are some kids okay and other ones not? Is it just because, is it that the fact that everyone is different and everyone's body reacts differently? So that, for example,
Could be a genetic based thing rather
Exactly.
than.
Now, all three of my kids had MMR, didn't they? There are children who have been damaged by the MMR vaccine and other vaccines. And then there are a lot of children out there who aren't damaged. The whole point of this interview is it must be an absolute nightmare for you to try and make a decision.
it's like Russian roulette.
It is a bit like Russian roulette.
You spin it, you take the chance. It could be that, you know, genetically she'll be fine, so to speak, because her body will adapt and change and it will be fine. Or it could be that we get this jab done on Thursday and within 2 weeks, next thing we know, I've got to give up work for whatever reason because the child's disabled and she can't manage on her own, for example. You know, it is a bit of a worry, but
But this is the thing: it's a case of you have to weigh that up yourself. But it depends on your resolve as a person. If you as a person don't think you could deal with that and you would rather risk not giving them the injection and them getting the other stuff instead, then that's your decision. But personally, I know I could deal with that. I'm a strong enough person to deal with that, so I would rather give her the injection. And as, like I say, none of my family who have had the injection have ever suffered from any bad stuff happening to them, or your family either, because your sisters have had it. I don't know if you've had it.
and what?
Now, do you know that you can get the MMR as separate vaccinations rather than all in one combined?
Yes.
Okay. What do you think about that?
Our doctors don't do it.
Interesting.
Because I found out. I asked. I said,
Really?
you could do this separately, yeah?
What's my cup of tea?
Do you do it? No. Okay. That's good to know. Why? We just don't have the funding for it.
Okay.
So...
This government doing all the funding and look, cups.
Yeah, let's not get him started.
There's going to be a lot of people watching this who are very anti-vaccine vaccination. What do you say to them?
Give me an alternative and I'll happily do it. If you give me a choice between I can either inject my child with something that could potentially kill it or she'll catch a disease that will kill her, I'll take the injection over any day of the week because no parent should have to bury their child. At the end of the day, you can be anti-vaccine till you go blue in the face, but if it was absolutely bogus and bollocks, they wouldn't do it. Or at least I'd like to think they wouldn't. I wouldn't put past fucking the government anyway. But as I said, I had whooping cough when I was a baby and it did almost kill me. If you ask my mum, she was sat crying with me in her arms in the bathroom with all the hot taps running to create enough steam so that I could breathe. And the doctor, I think it was a Sunday, came out, did a home visit, then tore off to get the antibiotics to come back and administer them himself. I only know this because my mum told me. And she seems to think my lungs are damaged because of it and I feel fine.
I can understand the point of view of people that are anti vaccinations, but as Matt says, if there was a different option to do the same thing, I'd take it, not a problem. If I could do a homeopathic version, I would actually prefer that than vaccinations because I prefer homeopathic. There's lots of natural ways of doing things. I don't think there's enough research into the natural ways of doing things. But until that happens, I don't have any other option. And I would rather get her vaccinated.
So what about missing the vaccinations and dealing with the diseases if they crop up in the future?
I'd rather not, because I know how bad they can be. I've seen what it's done to people. I've seen family members and what it's done to them. The fact that it can make you infertile, and I would never wish that on anyone because I thought I was infertile. And I was terrified that I wasn't going to be able to have Paul. And if it's bad enough, they can die. So it's a case of, do you accept them dying or them having the possibility of having autism or something else? It's a very difficult choice.
Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me today. So, a young couple there who are starting out their family life, and they're having to make some very, very difficult decisions about whether or not to vaccinate their child. They have chosen, Matt and Ann-Carid have chosen to vaccinate their child. She's already had one set of vaccinations and goes back tomorrow for another vaccination. I may try and follow up and just see if they received more information, see what consent was actually sought prior to Polgara receiving the follow-up vaccine, and just to see how they get on at the doctors. We won't be able to film there, but I'll follow up with them and just see how they get on. Now, as I said in the video, many of you will take the stance that vaccines are dangerous and that we should avoid them. That young couple weighed up all the possibilities. They'd looked into their family history, their possible genetic issues, and the main thing for them was to look at the diseases, the results of the diseases, what can actually happen to somebody who catches them, and then weigh it up against possible dangers of the vaccines. It was very difficult for me not to give them my view whilst we were interviewing, and I didn't want to sway them either way. But it was clear that I was anti-vaccine. And whilst I said that the vaccination is a viable scientific option, it's the other stuff that goes along with it. When Jenner, back way hundreds of years ago, cured cowpox and smallpox, that was vaccination, but he didn't have thimerosal, mercury, and all the other horrid sort of stuff that's in there. This is something you need to research for yourself. You need to check out your local healthcare service and see what advice they are giving you. Also, look around and speak to other parents. A great source of information is to speak to other parents in whatever community group you are in, if you are part of a community group. Nurseries, check out and see what other people's opinions are. Do check the internet, but remember, be very discerning about what you do based on the internet. But then saying that, don't believe everything that's written in books either, because that's full of personal opinion of the author. So lots to weigh up, and it is a minefield. It is very difficult for these young parents. This young couple we've known for a while, and that's why they were happy for me to interview them and to go on camera and talk about this very personal issue of vaccination. But as you could see, they'd made their decision, and they seemed happy to live with the results. I want to thank Matt and Angharad for allowing us to come and film them. And like I say, I'm sure that we'll be in touch with them, and I will just keep updating you as to how things are going with regards to the vaccination on that only. So it was great to meet them, it was great to chat with them, and it was great to hear how they'd thought through this whole difficult situation. Okay, coming up, hopefully, fingers crossed, scrap permitting, we'll be talking to Neil Foster, and he'll be bringing us some news headlines from stateside, and hopefully he'll be able to hear me as well as I can hear him this time. Skype being what it is, and we shall stick with it. Today's t-shirt, by the way, didn't mention it at the start, the amazing Spider-Man. Am I a superhero? Is my spider sense seeking out the New World Order and injustice? You make up the mind. We started this right at the very start. I've been wearing these t-shirts, and people have been coming up with various spurious conspiracy theories as to the messages that I'm sending out with these t-shirts. It's purple as well, which is a royal colour. Please feel free to make of it what you will, but I can assure you I have no intention of passing on any codes or messages. There'll be no 5-digit codes going across the screen or strange sentences for anybody, and there's nothing in the t-shirts. It's purely a case of what comes out the drawer first and what I feel comfortable in. But please feel free to start a meme or to do something across the internet with it, because lots of people love that. Like I said, coming up in about 10 minutes is Neil Foster. We will also have Dave Eden will be joining us, and after 5 o'clock, so coming up in around about 40 minutes, Cheryl Smale will be joining us, and we're going to be looking at some people with a Messiah complex. Let's have a quick look at some news then to take us through to Neil Foster. And Dee Dee, my producer and my partner and my lovely wife, has has been seeking out loads of news stories for me. But before I go to that, Tim, who's one of our hosts on Awake Radio, he's also the host of Job Seekers UK, JSUK News. He was asking in the chat box during the radio show last night. If you didn't know, I do a radio show at 7 p.m. Tuesdays and Fridays. So live on the television and then live on the radio, on Awake Radio from 7 p.m. UK time. Good if you can join us on the radio, because I get to play loads of music and stuff like that, and it's great. We have a great time. He was asking about the influence that China has in the UK. China has been buying US Treasury bonds, it's been buying UK government bonds, it's also been investing and taking shares in UK corporations and the government projects over here in the UK. And Tim was asking about the influence that China has over our country here in the UK. So what I thought I would do is do a bit of digging and just find out how much influence China has over our corporations, and a lot of them are high street names that you'll recognise. It's deepening its investment in the UK with around £18 billion of deals expected to be signed in a 3-day visit by the Premier Li Keqiang. I do apologise. There's 200 Chinese business leaders coming, and they're involved in the UK's first nuclear power station in a generation at Hinkley Point in Somerset. So this is the first nuclear power plant that's been constructed in, like it says, in a generation. And that's at Hinkley Point in Somerset. That's being built with Chinese investment. China National Nuclear Corporation, the CNNC, and the China General Nuclear Power Corporation, CGN, have already agreed in principle to be minority shareholders in the £16 billion project. That does mean that some of the profits from the energy generated at that station will be going back out to China. So let's have a look. Current investments then here in the UK include water. China's sovereign wealth fund owns 9% of the UK's largest water company, Thames Water, while a Hong Kong-based investment consortium controlled by billionaire Li Keqiang owns more than a quarter of Northumbrian Water. Canary Wharf. China was one of several investors, including Qatar and investment banks, that rescued the property company that owns Canary Wharf. The Royal Albert Dock, a Chinese developer, signed a £1 billion deal with the London's Mayor, Boris Johnson, to build a business park on the site of the derelict Royal Albert Docks in East London. Weetabix, the nation's favourite breakfast cereal, was snapped up by Chinese government-owned Bright Foods in 2012. The company bought a 60% stake in the 80-year-old cereal with the aim of expanding the brand abroad, especially in Asia. Heathrow Airport. China Investment Corporation added Heathrow to its list of assets in 2012 when it bought a 10% stake in the UK's largest airport. London's black cabs. The private Chinese car maker Geely rode to the rescue of the maker of London's black cab Manganese Bronze, paying £11 million to buy the troubled firm after it fell into administration. Sunseeker, the Somerset company that makes luxury yachts sailed by James Bond villains, was bought by China's second richest man, Wang Jianlin, and his Dalian Wanda Group in a £300 million deal. Harvey Nichols, the upmarket department store loved by absolutely fabulous fashionistas, that was bought by Hong Kong luxury goods tycoon Dixon Poon in 1991. Superdrug, high street stalwart Superdrug, has been owned by Hong Kong-based A.S. Watson since 2002. Hinkley Point, we've already spoken about. HS2, China's President Li Keqiang told David Cameron last year that the country would like to be involved in HS2. The Chinese Railway Group has since offered to finance and build links to Birmingham Station. That whole thing, that £16 billion, is looking to shave around about, let's think, about 15, 20 minutes off the time between Birmingham and London, if it's that important. The Thames Tunnel, China's sovereign wealth fund China Investment Corporation already owns a tenth of Thames Water. Now Whitehall's officials are said to be courting Chinese investors to invest in the £4.2 billion Thames Tunnel. The London Super Sewer. Third runway at Heathrow. Chinese grandees have already singled out the failure to build a third runway at Heathrow as one of the UK's problems. If Heathrow expansion plans go ahead, Chinese investors who already own 10% of the airport are expected to be involved in financing and building it. And finally, for now, although there is a lot more, London authorities are hoping foreign funds will step forward to invest in Crossrail 2. A major north-south railway project in the capital. The £16 billion project is not expected to be operational until the 2030s. So, as you can see, the Chinese government, Chinese private corporations, Chinese oligarchs are heavily invested in the UK, and a lot of these projects wouldn't be happening if it wasn't for Chinese investment. Now, in some respects, that's great that these people are coming and investing in our country. It also means, though, that a lot of the profits from utilities, such as water and nuclear power, will be heading overseas and out of our economy, thereby stripping away a lot of the economic power that we should be enjoying in this country. Our status economically across the globe has fallen greatly over the last few years of austerity. When Sonia Poulton confronted Lord Rothschild about a month ago, she asked him about austerity, and his reply was, "What austerity?" Hadn't got a clue what she was on about. Genuinely didn't believe there was any austerity. Mind you, he'd just visited the doctor in Harley Street, so he's not obviously worried about money and healthcare like the rest of us are, having to deal with an NHS system which has been broken down. I've also been informed that on the 13th of October, my local hospital, the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, hi guys, I know how much you love me, they will be, staff there will be holding a protest against poor wages, and that's going to be on the 13th of October. That's coming up fairly soon. I'll just get the details so that I can remind myself exactly what has been said. Where is it? Is that it? No. Anyway, there's going to be a protest about the poor level of wages in the NHS for nursing staff, and they're going to be having a day of action on the 13th of October at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in King's Lynn. So if you're in Norfolk, I'll be there with the cameras, and I'll be there reporting and see if I can get thrown off Queen Elizabeth Hospital grounds again. They threw me off last time for filming, even though they know I was coming, and because they didn't like the report I'd done. Anyway, let's move on. But I'll be there covering that demonstration and speaking to some of the people from the TUC and the nursing staff who are normally very scared to speak to journalists. Whatever the management of that hospital have said to them has scared them off big style. Okay, it's just before 4:30, so I'm going to attempt to work Skype, and let's get going. We're going to call Neil via Skype now, and he's going to be bringing us some news and headlines from across the pond.
I'm going to start with that old nugget, Ebola again.
Yes.
I'm afraid. We spoke about this a couple of weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago even, when they first suggested sending 3,000 troops to Liberia.
Yes, that's right.
To help. Well, don't worry, we're here to help with machine guns.
Peace bombs.
Dozens of American troops in Liberia will risk direct Ebola exposure as military deploys specialists to test lab samples for deadly virus. Why does it have to be the military?
Yeah.
Obviously they know something about this current strain.
Are all these soldiers medically trained?
America. Sorry?
Are all of these combat soldiers medically trained?
Well, it doesn't say. It doesn't say they're combat soldiers. It actually says about 24 specially trained soldiers. So expert soldiers. I guess,
Yes, expert soldiers.
will be employed in testing facilities as the US ramps up Ebola response. So they're only testing facilities. So presumably they're going to be walking around wards where there are a number of Ebola patients. And I did read another report that apparently hazmat suits don't work.
That's right. That was the nurse in Spain who had been using hazmat suits, but had still managed to catch Ebola after entering the room twice, where a patient had been who died, and now she's got Ebola.
Yeah, well, I think she must have been a bit lax in her hygiene, shall we say, and not washed her hands or something, and touched something that she shouldn't have touched.
Yeah, I think the point they were trying to make with that particular article was that it may have gone airborne to make you even more scared.
Well, that's what was reported in America last week. Well, from the UN, I think it was. They said, our worst nightmare is that it could go airborne. Yeah, it's never done it before, funnily enough.
No.
But the only way it gets airborne is in the bats that carry it out, I guess. Or the monkeys, whatever. General David Rodriguez, head of US forces in Africa, said 3 mobile labs had deployed to Liberia and 4 more were being sought to run tests. Well, you would imagine they tested these labs before they send them out, wouldn't you? So why do they have to send the troops to test them again?
You would hope so.
Each lab would be staffed by a team of 3 to 4 experts trained to operate in the worst chemical, biological and nuclear environments. So it says 3 to 4 experts in each one, but they're only sending 3. That makes a maximum of 12 people? Mm-hmm. Yet they're sending dozens. What's that about?
Maybe that's for like a shift system or something, so they can keep it running.
Well, who knows? Maybe that's the guys with the machine gun standing outside in case anybody escapes.
That'll be it.
Who knows? Including the doctors, I guess, because the hazmat suits don't work. So the doctors can't even leave. Well, that's the logic of it, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
What about all these guys that are entering buildings with hazmat suits on? They should be quarantined, obviously.
Well, yeah, because as soon as they come out, the hazmat suit is going to be contaminated. So the decontamination is going to have to go ahead.
Well, possibly they are as well. So, yeah.
Now,
they're saying 2 dozen US military specialists deploying to Liberia. So I guess they must be doing 12-hour shifts. Military specialists deploying to Liberia will test laboratory samples for Ebola. But most of the it's up to 4,000 troops now. It was 3,000 a couple of weeks ago. Due to go there, are not expected to be in direct contact with the virus, defence officials said Tuesday. So what are they there for?
Yeah. If they're not going to be in direct contact with the virus, which means they're not going to be treating or testing people, what are the 4,000 going for? Yeah.
Well, who knows? But carrying on, this is a scaremongering. They're ratcheting it up. And I mentioned earlier that when I click on the Mail Online in America, what I get is an American version of it. So I get a lot of American versions for the Mail. They don't necessarily come from the Mail, but they're posted on the Mail's website. The last one was from Reuters. This one says it's been done for the Mail Online. I don't know where it comes from, but teenager with Ebola-like symptoms quarantined in Miami, Florida, after falling sick while on holiday from West Africa. They never thought to ask her any questions at the airport, obviously. West African teenager became sick while visiting Miami Beach on Sunday, and his family grew concerned that he may have Ebola. Why are they letting planes in from West Africa for holidays?
Because you can't restrict travel, my friend. You can't restrict travel. That's dangerous and that's dictatorial.
Well, they restrict it to for you and I if we refuse to have a pat down at the airport.
Yeah.
Some people are on no-fly lists.
That's right.
For nothing, because they've spoken out about something or other.
Is this the red and blue lists?
Yeah. So, I mean, you can restrict travel. I mean, if this was truly a global epidemic, pandemic, plague, whatever you want to call it, they would restrict travel, all right.
Oh, yeah.
Unless they wanted to cause one.
Well, now, I read a report on the radio last night which spoke about FEMA opening up holding camps in Texas because and forcibly holding a person because they'd previously refused to go into quarantine. So they were now using a court order, and they were talking about setting up FEMA camps in Texas.
Well, they were set up already. They just had to open the gates, didn't they?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Anyway, unnamed person was taken to Jackson Memorial Hospital for tests, and the hazardous materials team called in. A test performed by the Department of Health came back negative. So why the big scary headline? They already knew when they published this story that that this person didn't have Ebola.
Fear, fear, fear.
So why the big scary headline? I mean, it tells you this. The Mail bullet points.
Yes.
The main things. It's the third bullet point, so you can actually see it when you're reading the headline. So what's the point of it? People are just going to read the headline and go, "Oh no," and not read any further.
Exactly. That's what they're counting on. They're just counting on people read the headline, go no further, because that's told them everything they need to know.
Yeah. Well, a test performed by the Department. That reminded me of your previous guest, Alan. A test performed by the Department of Health came back negative on Monday, and it says the results have now been sent to the Centres for Disease Control and Prevention for a final test. Was that one going to come back positive then? And this person's been released, and whatever.
And the family were on the beach at the time, were they?
Just saying, West Africa was sick while visiting Florida on holiday.
Yes, so they'll have been on the beach.
Well, it's in Miami Beach. That's a general area. It's not actually the beach as such. It came back negative on Monday morning, but Miami Beach Mayor Philip Levine said the results were being sent to the Centres for Disease Control and Prevention for a final test. I'm just trying to see if she's still in quarantine or not. I'll take this chance. Called in hazardous materials team. Several police cars and rescue vehicles ringed Holt's Children's Hospital at Jackson, and the unit was quarantined for 2 hours following the teenager's transfer. It's important to point out that this patient did not meet the Centres for Disease Control's case definition for Ebola, but the test is being conducted out of an abundance of caution. When did that start? And health officials expect the test to rule out Ebola. So, it still doesn't say if she's still in quarantine, though.
No, but they told us already that they haven't got it.
Yeah, but they're not going to tell you their name.
Sorry, I'm confused.
Does this person even exist?
Exactly.
If they're not going to give a name, are they even going to? Why wouldn't they tell you the name? Surely, if you want to find out who'd been in contact with this person, you have to release the name so as people know. Oh, I've been in contact with John Smith.
Yeah, that seems logical.
If it was John Smith, there'd be a lot of panic in the UK, I guess. But anyway, it was mistakenly reported to me on Monday that Thomas Duncan had died, and he hasn't actually died. He's been treated with experimental serum, apparently. Okay. So I wonder if this guy was ever sick as well. But who knows? But moving on. This is Obama's in a bit of bother, apparently. There's a sense the world is spinning so fast and nobody is able to control it, admits Obama, amid ISIS, Ebola and Ukraine crises. Who caused all of those?
Barry.
I think Barry was complicit in it, without a doubt. As were a number of Western leaders, and possibly even Mr. Putin himself. Who knows? Obama admits that ISIS, Ebola, and Russian aggression are global crises. Russian aggression.
Who've they been aggressing?
Russia hasn't attacked anybody. It says
mind you, Bashir al-Assad wasn't attacking anybody, but 3.5 years ago they decided to have a go at him.
Yeah. Well, it says there's a sense the world is spinning so fast nobody control it. Well, that's a true statement because the world does spin. And I'd like to see Barry Superman getting up there and trying to stop it.
He'll try.
He adds that the US is proud to bear the brunt of these worldwide problems. Yeah?
Really?
Does that mean all the Ebola victims can go to America?
It must be. That means they don't need to come here.
Yeah. It's all right for the UK. Yeah. Explains America will always stand up for people that nobody else does. Now, don't break open the sick bags, will you?
Sorry.
Yesterday I was told by Paula's son that at school it was America Day.
Oh.
They're all encouraged to go up and dress up in red, white and blue and paint their faces red, white and blue.
Okay.
All for America, But Barry can't control it all, apparently.
Well, who are from the 51st state? Who are?
Yeah. So President Barack Obama has admitted that global crises such as Ebola, ISIS and Russian aggression have made the world spin so fast nobody is able to control it. The president made the remarks at the Democratic National Convention fundraiser in New York City yesterday, but added that America is proud to bear the brunt of these problems. His comments come as the US continue airstrikes on ISIS militants in Syria and Iraq, and California Congressman Duncan Hunter claims at least 10 ISIS fighters have been caught coming across the Mexican border in Texas. Well, who left that open, Barry? Just yesterday, General Martin Dempsey, who chairs the Military Joint Chiefs of Staff, said the US and its allies were finding it more and more difficult to track the increasingly technologically adept ISIS forces in Iraq and Syria because they don't exist.
They don't exist, or those that do pop up are using American weapons.
Yeah, and a lot of them seem to be agents of whatever intelligence agency they want to use at the time.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the president is also facing the threat of the deadly Ebola virus on US soil as fears of the spread of the condition continue to grow. Well, I did read a report the other day there that said that this strain of Ebola wasn't particularly infectious.
Interesting. It's got a longer incubation period, but it's not quite as infectious.
Yeah, but they just release people willy-nilly who are clearly showing symptoms.
Yeah.
But apparently, it's you're less likely to catch Ebola than you are the flu.
Oh, right.
I'm waiting to go down to the local chemist here. I'm going to take a photograph of the Grim Reaper and take a photograph of one of the chemist's signs giving free flu shots or whatever, and superimpose it on top of it, because I think it's quite appropriate.
The free flu shots?
Maybe free. All the shots are free.
Wow, because you have to pay £9 in Sainsbury's here.
Yeah, I know. But you go up to the counter here. It doesn't matter what you're getting. You could be just going up there for a pair of sunglasses or something, and they say, "Do you want a free flu shot with that?" You know. and the answer to that is no, thanks. I'd like to live to wear the sunglasses. Yeah. But but yeah, it's and it's all over the tannoy. Get your free flu shots, etc., etc. You know, it's everywhere. Every chemist got signs up. But anyway, they're going at this Thomas Duncan guy is receiving treatment in a Dallas hospital. It doesn't say that this is a particularly secure Dallas hospital. It's just a general Dallas hospital. So he's obviously not being kept separate from other patients. Apparently, he's coherent. He can get up and about, and he's fine. What's to stop him walking off? Possibly the machine gun at the door. I don't know.
Possibly.
It was also announced yesterday that $750 million would be spent so the US military can construct treatment facilities in Ebola-stricken countries. So it's costing $750 million. Yeah. And the country's broke.
Neil, we're just getting reports through that Mr. Duncan has died.
Has he died now, is he?
Yeah, I've just been informed. Bear with me a second.
I'm just checking out myself.
Yeah, it's yeah,
he's died 21 minutes ago, apparently.
That's right. Thomas Eric Duncan, 42, the patient with the first case of Ebola diagnosed in the United States, and the Liberian man at the centre of a widening public health scare, died in isolation at a hospital on Wednesday Hospital.
I tell you what, his family should take that hospital to court. Because he turned up with symptoms and they turned him away.
Yeah, they sent him away with paracetamol, didn't they?
Yeah, or antibiotics or whatever. But his family should sue the hospital for malpractice or something, whatever. Because they clearly didn't do their job when they'd clearly been warned to watch out for people coming from West Africa showing symptoms of Ebola, and they sent the guy home to infect other people, and he's died. They could have treated him at the time, and he probably would have been alive today.
Exactly.
So anyway, moving on from Ebola. In this election, where is it? In this election, Obama's party benches him. Chicago, when he soared to victory, this is from the New York Times, when he soared to victory almost 10 million votes by almost 10 million votes in 2008, that's all he won by. And people think he got a landslide. Now, 10 million votes in America is not a landslide by any means. President won in states like Virginia that Democratic candidates had not captured since 1964. He was trumpeted as a transformational leader who remade American politics by creating a bomb site in the Middle East. I added that bit. A new electoral map and a diverse voter coalition to shape the Democratic Party after the 21st century. But for now, he has been reduced to something else, an isolated political figure who is viewed as a liability to Democrats in the very states where voters by the thousands had once stood to cheer him. When Mr. Obama entered the campaign fray last week, I think it's the midterm elections come up here next month.
Yeah.
He did so by returning to the unconditional embrace of his own hometown in a blue state where the incumbent Democratic senator faces scant opposition and the Democratic governor is running in part on his support for the Affordable Care Act. Anyway, basically, the bottom line in this story is that none of his candidates want him campaigning for them whatsoever because they view him as a liability. Yeah. So he's not
isn't he standing? Isn't he going to try and stand for a third term?
Well, all they have to do is bring in the equivalent of the Civil Contingencies Act. I can't remember what it's called here, and He can be a dictator if he wants.
It's martial law,
He
basically.
he can cancel the elections.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. But moving on from Obama and Ebola, sounds the same, really, doesn't
It
it?
does, doesn't it?
This,
Both as dangerous.
I don't watch television, but I don't know if you've heard of a program called Seventh Heaven.
Nope.
It's an American TV show, apparently. And this is the so-called star of it, Stephen Collins. And this is exactly the same stuff that's happening in the UK with celebrities being charged with paedophilia.
Okay.
I'm afraid of what will happen if he refuses treatment for paedophilia. Again, here we are, the implication that this is a mental illness.
Which means they're trying to imply they're trying to imply that it's kind of naturally occurring and that you can catch it.
Yeah, you can cure it, apparently. I mean, remember years ago, when I was a lad, or when you were a lad, they said they could cure sorry, I've even forgotten the word. Homosexuality.
That's right.
They said they could cure it. Well, this is the same thing. And what happened with that movement? The homosexual, or call them gay if you like, community got all these rights.
That's right. And
because they're predisposed to it.
Yeah,
now they're saying you're predisposed to paedophilia, so you should have the same rights.
So are we going to be looking sort of 10, 15 years down the line? We're going to start seeing paedophilic marriage and stuff like that, where men, women, whatever, are going to be able to marry children.
That's why they're reducing the age of consent, isn't it? Mm. And I guarantee you, with the next 10 years, that'll be down to 15, 14, and it'll keep going until there is no age of consent.
All the way down to all the way down to where Harriet Harman wants it to be 0, basically.
Yeah, there won't be an age of consent. Simple as that. And of course there isn't in common law. So if people want common law, well, there it is. Paedophilia is legal.
Yeah, I expect to have your kids taken and have things done with them.
Yeah, bombshell claims of the wife of Seventh Heaven star Stephen Collins about a secret life of child abuse. And she's standing by him, of course. Explosive divorce papers reviewed by Mail Online paint a picture of a 27-year marriage destroyed by actor Stephen Collins' secret life. But she stood by him all these 27 years, knowing he was a child molester. Faye Grant says that Stephen admitted he has engaged in a long-term pattern of sexually abusing minor children. Well, what do you mean minor children? They're minors or the children?
Yeah, it's one and the same thing.
I mean, is minor children that aren't so important?
Could be. Maybe that's what he thinks. They're just kind of throwaway objects for him to use.
Yeah, they're other people's children, so they're minor. They don't matter so much. She claims that Collins used his celebrity status to engender, it's funny to use the word gender, isn't it, the trust of the families of the young girls he molested. The New York City Special Victims Unit is currently investigating Collins. I believe there have been other victims, she says. Well, over 27 years, I'd imagine there's going to be lots of them. It's kind of smacks of Jimmy Savile, doesn't it?
Very much so.
She says, although she claims she has never witnessed anything firsthand. Well, I would doubt that very much. How can you live with somebody for 27 years and not notice anything? The estranged couple's 25-year-old daughter has been in a rehab facility that specialises in eating disorders. I don't know what that's got to do with it, but perhaps the implication is that he molested her.
And that's probably one of her coping mechanisms, because she can control food, so she won't have control of other things.
Yeah. Devastated Faye also revealed Collins was treated for a sex addiction and was seeing a sexual dysfunction therapist, but refused to seek proper help or hospitalisation for his predilection towards children, she said. So she knew all about it. And they had children. And
she's complicit then?
She's complicit, yeah. Well, if he has abused their own children, then she's certainly complicit. The actor who played he played a pastor. There you go. Eric Camden, the virtuous father on long-running family drama Seventh Heaven, is allegedly under investigation for child molestation. Well, what does it mean allegedly? It just says in the main headings of the article he's been investigated.
And he's admitted it.
And he's admitted it, yeah. In the court filings, Faye said she first learned of Collins' illness in the presence of his therapist in January 2012 after 27 years of marriage. I beg to differ again. And according to the papers, she spent 20 months coping with the trauma of his alleged abuse on children and worrying about her moral and legal responsibility. She said, obviously, I'm sickened by Stephen's actions. I've urged Stephen multiple times to seek proper treatment for paedophilia. So she's urged him multiple times since 2012 or before that?
It must have been before that. In 27 years, like you say, she must have known.
Yeah. But anyway, tapes of Colin's confession given during a marriage therapy session emerged in the past 24 hours. So this is all just coming out now. And he's quite a familiar face, actually. I actually recognise him, although I don't know what programme it is I'm talking about.
Okay.
But anyway, just as an addition to that, this has popped up. Actress who starred in Seventh Heaven and movie My Best Friend's Wedding dies in her sleep, aged 40.
Wow.
I wonder if she knew anything. Sarah Goldberg passed away aged 40 at her family's cabin in Wisconsin from a suspected heart condition on September 27th. Miss Goldberg from Chicago had movie roles in My Best Friend's Wedding and Training Day. She also appeared in TV shows Seventh Heaven, blah, 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 blah. Sarah Goldberg passed away aged 40 at her family's cabin in Wisconsin with a suspected heart condition. An autopsy failed to come to a conclusion on the cause of death. So what are they talking about? Her heart failed or it didn't? It's an inconclusive autopsy, yet they're putting in the headline she's died of a heart condition.
If you're telling me that a coroner can't figure out that somebody's got a bad heart, then they're not
exactly.
much of a coroner.
Yeah, and that's all they tell you. But just pure coincidence. This is in the same edition of the Mail, with the same story about the guy who starred in that. 7 years married to somebody who obviously knew about his paedophilial instincts. So, and she's just happened to die off mysteriously at age 40. So, I don't know if you saw this, Al. This might interest you. Twitter sues federal government for right to tell its users what spy agencies want to know about them.
Oh, good old Twitter.
Do we believe that?
No.
and what good is it going to do anyway? We know they're all watching us.
Exactly, absolutely none.
Yeah.
Man, we've got a thing about Twitter coming up later on.
Oh, well, this will tie in then.
Yeah.
Twitter claims current restrictions violate its First Amendment rights. It wants to reveal number of national security-related requests it receives. The current rules prevent it from even stating the fact it has received none. It follows revelations by former NSA contractor Edward Snowden, who I've got my suspicions about anyway. That's another one from Reuters, so you've got to be sceptical. Twitter is suing the US Department of Justice in a bid to win the right to reveal to its users the true extent of US government surveillance on their accounts. The social network wants to overturn restrictions which prevent it from revealing the number of national security letters and foreign intelligence surveillance act court orders it receives. So even, it's not just American agencies that are looking at people's Twitter accounts, it's all of them. In the lawsuit filed in the US District Court for Northern California, Twitter said current rules prevent it from even stating that it has not received any national security requests for user information. Again, we're going down the road here of believing that what we're told are highly technological ISIS terrorists are using Twitter to send messages around and plan attacks.
Of course, yeah. I mean, that would be the really obvious thing to do. Yeah. Let's just sort our plans out and share it on Twitter. You've got an iPad, yeah, great. Let's here we go. We're going to go and bomb this bit next. Ridiculous.
Yeah, we'll put up we'll tell America we're going to bomb them. We'll tell the UK we're going to bomb them, and we'll tell them it's going to be London.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's put that across all social media. That'll.
Yeah. Well, the only people that benefit from that are the British government when they can put in the draconian security measures all around London. And I guarantee what's going to happen in London. Everybody who's been there knows about Oyster cards, and you have to scan them every time you go to a train station, bus stations, whatever. These barriers are going to be at the end of the streets, and you're going to have to scan them to get into certain areas of London, and they will know where you are 24/7.
Exactly. Then
completely.
The cameras will just be the backup then, rather than the main source of surveillance. So you're going to have your Oyster card, and swipe in to get onto Whitehall, whatever. This big tourist area. There'll be.
Well, I mean, we have Twitter, who is supposedly to give up information about who's watching who, and if they overturn this, then surely that gives us the right to ask who's watching us in the cameras in the street. I mean, what's good for Twitter is good for everybody else.
Exactly. Well, one would hope so.
So why can't we demand every piece of footage of ourselves?
Oh, because it's national security. It's national security, my friend.
Well, prove to me that I'm a risk to national security. Take me to court.
Oh, everybody's a risk. Everybody's a risk.
Well, they need to. If they're bringing in this stuff online where it's going to be a crime to post, what do they call it, revenge porn. Take photographs of your boyfriend, girlfriend, and post out when you split up. People are stupid enough to do it in the first place, then they deserve what they get. But why are we getting photographed? We're getting photographed. We've got a right to say, hold on a minute, we don't want that going anywhere else. It's nobody else's business.
Yeah, I quite agree. But we know that that the government will claim national security and won't release any footage at all unless it's a benefit to them.
Okay. Well, anyway, I've run out of American stories. So I'm going to. This one interested me because being an old punk, I thought this was interesting. I can hear you, Al. Johnny Rotten's very scandalous nights in the Commons. Now, Sex Pistols star reveals how he attended drinking sessions with MPs and watched them head off with escort girls at the end of the night. Now, he's just written a new book. I've got the title of it at the bottom of the article. But this was before he was famous. This was before anybody knew him.
Interesting, okay.
John Lydon says he attended late-night drinking sessions in the Commons. He was accompanied on his trips to the Palace of Westminster by Linda Ashby. He claims that MPs would mingle and go off with escorts at the end of the night, and recalls how he was introduced to then Liberal Party leader Jeremy Thorpe. As the foremost singer of the Sex Pistols, he was a scourge of the establishment, but shortly before he became punk's most notorious star, Johnny Rotten attended late-night drinking sessions at the House of Commons and witnessed MPs mingling with working girls. Accompanying the singer to parties at the Palace of Westminster was his friend Linda Ashby. The star, now 58 and known by his real name John Lydon, says in his new autobiography that MPs and escorts would go off with each other at the end of the evening. Most sensationally, he recalls how Ashby introduced him to Jeremy Thorpe, the then leader of the Liberal Party, who, according to Lydon, it was just 2 months before he and Thorpe became Britain's most notorious figures, placing the meeting in 1976. So this is before the Sex Pistols were launched.
Right.
And he's in the House of Commons.
So why would he be there if he wasn't anybody in particular at that point?
Well, if he was a foul-mouthed yob, they said he was. He was a very, very intelligent man. He was very well read.
Oh yeah, and he still is, even though he does do butter adverts.
He was reading all the classic books when he was an early teenager. Thorpe was forced to resign on May 9th that year when he found himself at the centre of an explosive sex scandal. Yeah, I think he was accused of trying to murder somebody, wasn't he?
Right.
To stop them revealing his homosexuality. He adds, there we were looking out at the Thames under a brolly, the Houses of Parliament overshadowing us, surrounded by all these MPs who all day seemed to squabble and hate each other, but there they were discussing who is going with what escort.
Right.
Lydon had yet to become a household name as Rotten, and he thinks many of the assembled MPs would have mistaken him for a male escort. He says, I suppose they thought I was a male prostitute with a slightly different way of dressing.
How old was he at the time?
Well, this is 1976, so what was he? He must have been 18, 19.
So right age for him then?
Well, probably a bit old for them.
Yeah, true.
But, well,
it might
maybe
have
not for
appealed
some
to
of them.
somebody's taste.
Yeah. So, well, there you go. I mean, how does this guy, how does any of these people, this Linda Ashby as well, how are they getting into the House of Commons for late night drinking parties? You know, shouldn't there be an investigation? What about national security?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, okay, things weren't as closed up, and the security probably wasn't as tight back then. But even so,
well, we've also got that recording on the BBC of Jimmy Savile being asked who he'd like to kill, and he said Jimmy Savile.
Yeah, that's right. John Lydon saying it. Yeah.
Yeah, John Lydon, and he said Jimmy Savile. He said
right.
He's up to some disgusting things, and that was back in 1978.
Wow. Neil, thank you very much for that. Great insight as always.
Okay, we shall see you on Friday.
We're back on Friday now. You're back on the radio tomorrow, is that right?
Yep, tomorrow. I'm not sure if I can do my Friday Reality Rocks because my hard drive is fried now. My external hard drive.
Oh no!
But I'll see if I can get it working.
I tell you what, I'll nip down the garage and get a 100 best punk songs, and I'll mail it to you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, all the music's on the hard drive, so I can't get a hold of them. So anyway.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Neil.
Not a problem.
Neil
Talk to you Friday.
Foster, one of our great hosts, will be back with us on Friday. He also has his own show, Reality Bites, on Thursday, and hopefully, fingers crossed, maybe, we'll get Reality Rocks on Friday. Okay, let's move on now. It's 4 minutes to 5, and I'm joined by Cheryl Smale, another fantastic host on Awake Radio and here on Awake TV. And you've started your shows now, haven't you?
I have, yes.
Yeah.
I started last Sunday. So
Just give us a quick rundown as to what we have.
what we have. Oh. Sorry, couldn't hear me.
Amateurs. Oh dear. I'll be in my trailer.
Yeah, we had Roger Lefebvre on Sunday talking about home remedies and the Bach flower remedies
Okay.
to deal with emotional stresses and emotional issues. And I'm going to have Dave Eden on next Sunday.
Right.
I'm going to be talking about possibly touching on some psychological issues maybe and
Right.
some.
So another way of dealing with emotional stress.
Yeah.
Or causing it in Dave's
or
case.
uncovering it, maybe. Yeah, causing it with Dave, yeah.
Bless you.
Yeah, so, yeah, it's exciting. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Get
But
it a roll going.
You want to talk about something else now.
I do, yes.
So you've come and joined us today, and what is it you want to talk about?
Today, I'd like to talk about the Messiah complex. Dun, dun, dun.
The Messiah complex.
Yeah.
Who would possibly have a Messiah complex, Cheryl?
I wonder. Indeed, yeah.
Okay.
A few years ago, I got involved with a movement that was looking to create an alternative reality, an alternative community,
Right.
to replace the current system. And nothing came of it. Still to this day, I don't think anything's come of it. Well, nothing that was promised came of it. And it just got me thinking about the guy that was heading it up and, you know, just looking at these movements, specifically within the truth movement, within the Freeman movement.
Okay.
And just looking at some of the key players and some of the people that have, you know, a big influence on these people that are looking for an alternative reality, looking for some kind of way out of the system, you know, looking for a different system. And yeah, I just started to sort of put things together and look at the similarities that these people have got.
Right.
So we made a little video, didn't we, Al?
So we put a video together
Yeah.
and we're going to play that now, and then we'll come back. We'll chat about some of the people that are in the video and then we'll look at Cheryl's own experiences.
I'm keen to speak on my favorite subject at the moment, which is time, money, and fear.
I am infinite consciousness. I will decide my reality. We don't need the bloody system. No compliance. Come on. Thank you and good night. Thank you. I am infinite consciousness. I am infinite consciousness. Consciousness.
He is going to be giving us a very good talk tonight. We've been very, very lucky to get Mike up here. He's sort of royalty in the three-man sofa.
When I incarnated on this planet on a certain day at the end of the 7th decade of the last century, I was endowed, purely because of my physical incarnation, with unalienable rights that were bestowed upon me by the creator of the universe, however you prefer to see it. And those unalienable rights are rights that cannot be taken from me no matter what. I can refuse to enforce them, which is I can acquiesce to a pretense that they don't exist, but they cannot be taken away. And I cannot give them away either, because I just have them. You know, as long as I'm a being on this planet, I have them. Whether I exercise them or not, I still have them.
No comment.
Dear, oh dear. I am infinite consciousness.
Indeed.
I also noticed that some of those two guys did look like the Western concept of Jesus.
Of Jesus. They've got a Christ-like complex going on, definitely, with the hair and the open chest and the kind of look of...
Now, I discussed earlier with you that my feelings about these people, what their motives were. What do you say to that? Basically, viewers, I said that they're after money, celebrity, and
Thanks.
bit of the other.
Yeah, definitely. There's a. I mean, I haven't had. I've had experience with one of the guys on those that video.
It was the British guy, wasn't it?
Yeah, Michael Albanese. He was the guy that was heading up the UCT, the Universal Community Trust, which was the movement that I got involved with.
Okay.
Now, there was no kind of evident sexual goings on that I was, aware of. However, there's definitely, especially with a few of the others, there was definitely an air of sort of provocative sexuality, wasn't there?
Yeah,
in the imagery and the way they,
some of those stills there were very, very, I am the centre of your universe.
Yes, indeed. I mean, there's a lot of what these guys are saying. There is a truth in, and there is a, we are infinite consciousness. We know we are.
Right.
However, we need to remind each other that we are, not I am, because this is where it differs, isn't it? I think especially with Ike there was that I am.
Yeah.
And the more you reinforce this, the more people are, naturally inclined to. We're looking for the light. We're looking for some way out of the darkness.
Yeah. Well, we're all looking for a leader, aren't we?
Of course we are. And ultimately we've got to go in for that, not out to somebody else. But these guys seem to be very good at hooking people up, and
well, they have a very seductive appearance and a very seductive lifestyle, I would imagine.
Right.
That's probably funded by some group of people or some organisation.
Yeah.
But they seem to. This is somebody who's not been involved. I've not been involved with any of these organisations myself, but I get the impression that there's a lot of funding going in, even though they talk about, oh, we don't need money, we're going to get rid of money.
Indeed. I mean, the particular movement that I was into, we were promised an infinite source of money to build and to create a new system, which would then eventually be replaced with a sweat equity system. But there was a promise that there was a source of money that was coming our way to build it, to create it, to then slowly, gradually, eradicate the current financial system.
And that in itself sounds great to me, because an environment, a society without money,
of course,
is brilliant.
Yeah, a bartering system, sweat equity, a gift economy, whatever you want to call it. It's ideally it's fantastic, and we couldn't want for more. However,
you don't get this with sweat equity, do you?
You don't.
This doesn't come with sweat equity. This doesn't happen.
But it's the constant, my experience was the constant promise, that a few years of it's happening, right. This constant creation of building up our expectations, and then it wasn't happening, then it was, then it wasn't. It's real kind of, I don't really know if cult's the right word, but kind of.
Shall we look at the video and if you want to intro that, and then we'll talk a bit more about it.
Yeah, this is the promotional video for the Universal Community Trust movement.
And we don't endorse this.
We don't. No, this is just their thing.
I've freed myself from government control. I've declared my intent to create a new community based upon natural law, which is separate from their society. I've freed myself from all encumbrances with the government. They no longer send me any correspondence of any kind, neither do any of the corporations, unless I want to do business with them. As grantor trustee of the Universal Community of Self-Realization, which has no boundaries, it has no restrictions on entry All you need to be is a sentient being consenting to natural law to live in cooperative unity with the rest of your community. Every single community that becomes a member of the Universal Trust is self-governing and autonomous within the system of natural law. And if you apply the condition of unconditional love to every single fibre of your being, and you give that without any expectation of reward to every being who you encounter, you will be living by the standards that we are reaching for within the trust. Because we believe within the trust that the only solution is that we create between ourselves a cooperative trade network which completely bypasses the finance system. Because let's face it, the main problems that we all encounter on a daily, if not hourly basis, are generally financial related. We have a government that pretends to protect our interests and our so-called security when all they do is hold us in a very low security open prison. Because if we don't do what they say, whenever they say it, they automatically construe that a crime has been committed because you didn't obey their authority. Therefore, what we have to understand is how this situation came about in order to understand how to construct the solution in entirely peaceful ways. Because it's been proven again and again and again, and it will always be so, that violence begets more violence. We've all got a different path to tread, but it comes down to the same thing: self-realization. Realizing who and what we really are and why we're here. So we want a community that is able to offer everything necessary to support a home education network where we all take responsibility for making sure that our children are free from programming of all descriptions. We are all capable of everything that we can imagine in consciousness. We are all capable of rising above the expectations that aren't our own. They're the ones that have been imposed upon us by a state that seeks to destroy who we are, to merge us into this. They call it a hive mind. That isn't the same thing as mass consciousness. The hive mind is where everybody buzzes on the same frequency and they lose their uniqueness and they forget about why they're really here. The only reason we're here is to take consciousness to the next level, is to stop the violence and end the wars and end all the suffering. And to do that, we have to understand that this land has been stolen from the indigenous peoples of these islands. And we have to remember that many of us here may have lived through that. And we came back for those reasons, to take the land back for the people, but not by force, by showing them something they won't show us. We forgive them, we give them unconditional love and compassion, and we say, we know that you're here to show us who and what we really are.
Take a group of consenting people from any walk of life, anywhere in the world. Replace the debt-based financial systems with a usury-free permanent credit facility, based upon the cooperative agreement of sovereign men and women to provide goods and services for everybody in their community free of charge, subject to mutually agreed individual needs and requirements and pursuant to a community trust agreement between each individual, the community, and its sovereign trustees. Anything that can't be provided within the community itself will be acquired from neighbouring districts within the terms and conditions of cooperative trade agreements between communities. Everybody will have unlimited credit to acquire everything they need as long as they offer something back to their community on a permanent basis, an unconditional promise to pay in sweat equity. However, slaving 40 to 80 hours a week just to scrape together a basic existence in the service of fraudulent debts will naturally become a curiously disturbing relic from our recent past. Free men and women should contribute as much time, talent and energy as their community can reasonably require of them, even if that community begins and ends with their own family, rather than for a mandated time period, leaving the rest of their lives free for family and friendship, absorbing all knowledge worth knowing, creative endeavour, and most importantly, self-realization. The galvanizing framework for this community template is grounded in the fundamental principle of universal law. We are all free to do exactly as we choose, provided that the actions resulting from our decisions do not infringe the rights of any other blessed living soul. Or more simply put, my rights end where yours begin. Peace officers are cordially invited to become the defenders of each new community and the property held in perpetual and transient trust. Although the genuine possibility of peace, freedom, and abundance for all mankind will eventually eradicate what we now know as inequality and crime. Coercion is, by its very definition, always a destructive force. We must take individual responsibility for our actions, and in so doing, we will discover that we can never be truly free when we act under the apparent benefit privilege of corporatist state-controlled limited liability. Government, as we know it, will be dismantled and quickly replaced with benign administrations of each community trust, managed by a cooperative union of sovereign trustees, free from both corporate and political affiliations, as well as patronage, each of whom pledges their honesty, diligence, and integrity to the beneficiaries. The culture of privilege and elitism will disintegrate organically when all men and women are rightfully considered equals before the creator of all that is. Mankind's relationships with itself have all too often been founded upon perceived social or financial status rather than genuine affection, love, and respect. The 8 bondages of the human heart, hatred, shame, grief, fear, condemnation, race prejudice, familial pride, and smugness, have affected all our lives to a certain degree, whether by direct or indirect means. Violence will never be part of the solution, no matter what some ego-driven and intellectually misguided pseudo-revolutionaries might proclaim. I humbly ask you all to look in your hearts and see that we must turn away from all actions that cause suffering to others, as well as those who are proposing that violent revolution can be justified in the court of conscience as long as the circumstances suit our purposes.
The universal trust is the umbrella trust. It's the grand trust. It's the one that protects every single community within the trust, because what we're going to do is acquire land in every place on this planet. And we are putting this together now.
The Universal Community of Self-Realization Trust Declaration. I, Freeman Michael John of Benicia, do hereby declare that the Universal Community of Self-Realization Trust has been formed for the purposes of granting to every beneficiary named under this declaration the benefit of permanent credit to acquire every item, whether naturally occurring or organically manufactured by the parties to the trust, as well as every service provided for the community, until such time that their immortal spirit leads them to other experiences. The Grantor's Covenant. By this declaration, made in the city of Nottingham on the 10th day of July in the Gregorian year known as 2010 AD, my person hereby covenants to guarantee payment of every verifiable liability of the Universal Community of Self-Realization Trust and its beneficiaries upon presentment of the appropriate documents to the sovereign trustees of the permanent credit facility created today for the purposes of facilitating the acquisition of the necessary infrastructure of the trust. Declared and signed by Freeman Michael John Benicia. And we need 2 witnesses who aren't going to be signing this document. So, would anyone like to volunteer as a witness? Yeah. Okay. Me too. All you got to do is your signature and your name printed underneath.
Would you like to explain what the significance of that is?
Yes. Now this trust has been declared by deed a legal entity. This trust now guarantees each beneficiary, and each beneficiary means each community trust that's set up by the sovereign trustees will be a beneficiary of the universal trust, which I guarantee by a promise to pay any and all provable liabilities of those beneficiaries. We're looking for 100 people to start off each community, and there's no restriction on boundaries here. This is anywhere on the planet, anywhere in the universe, for that matter. Therefore, what each member of each community trust needs to do to become a member is to make a pledge to the community of their sweat equity, whatever that may comprise of, whatever they do. What we're talking about is you pledging your sweat equity to a trust that will, when everything is up and running, provide for everything that you need. Now, this isn't communism, just in case anyone's wondering. This is based upon the flip side of the community trust, and the flip side is the cooperative trade network. Everybody who is a member tenders into the network free of charge whatever good or service they provide for free. And for that purpose, they get every good and service for free within the network. And there's no boundaries, remember. And whatever it is that you do, you can pledge that in. Remember, all of this is not for profit. We are just looking to create the line of credit to acquire the infrastructure, the land, the machinery, the equipment, everything that we need to bring all this into fruition.
This is the way it works. The trustees and myself are willing to guarantee by a promissory note made payable to bearer, which is just as good as cash, in the words of Lord Denning, as I said earlier, we're going to guarantee every single provable debt of every beneficiary, that's everybody who steps over from this side of the line, which is what we have, the system of enslavement, to this one, which is everybody is free to do what they choose, provided they abide by the rules of natural law, which I've already stated. My rights end where yours begin. Just imagine what it's like if we all do what's in our heart, and it doesn't have to be for all of our lives. It's not a sentence. It's not something that we have to do because everyone has to do it. We have to find out what we feel we should do and then act on it. Now that might be within any community, hundreds of different things over a long period of time. You don't have to commit to anything except a pledge that when you're in this community, what you do is whatever it is that can benefit the community and benefit you at the same time by expressing what you want to. It's your donation, free from encumbrances, free from charges to your community, which includes you and your family. That doesn't mean you've got to work 40 to 80 hours a week. That means you only got to do whatever is necessary to maintain the community. So, let's just say that the reason why people are reluctant to step over to this side, even if they've let go of the fear, even if they're saying this is all very well, but how do I know that this will work? Well, we're setting up a prototype community right now. We're acquiring a piece of land, probably in this area of the country, because as I say, it has such a magical vibe, and a lot of people are already near this area, and the one common denominator within the group of people who are ready to do this now is that they have somehow freed themselves from responsibilities to the state or to an employer, and they're in a position where they can move to the next stage. They're just looking for like-minded people to do it with. Well, we're not even saying that every single community has to be the same, just those basic principles of natural law. Getting rid of financial transactions within the community is dependent upon one thing, and that is a cooperative trade network. What this means is everybody within the trust and all the communities who are beneficiaries of the trust, everybody gives for free whatever goods or services they provide for the community free of charge to get everything else free of charge. So you see, this is an exchange of your sweat equity for everything that you need or everything that you require to live a peaceful, happy, fulfilled existence. Knowledge within the community is shared openly, and it's stored that there'll be people within the community who will take the task of being the keepers of the knowledge, to preserve the knowledge and to extend the knowledge of the community for the benefit of everybody.
So, Cheryl, a very in-depth setup.
Yes.
Very focused around one man.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about your involvement and where it led you, and then how you're here now and what you think of it.
Well, like I say, I got involved with the movement, was one of the first families to sign up after it had been sort of established by the key members, I think. We're in the Hertfordshire Trust. Mm-hmm. Family Trust. We signed up and just went for the concept wholeheartedly. There was a few of us that really wanted this change. Mm-hmm. We really could see it happening. The vision was, just, it's such an idealistic vision. It was great, you know, it's what we all wanted. So we went off and joined up and you know, tried to start to create this new reality amongst just the few of us to start with, and with the hope that it would grow. But it just turned into a series of meetings, you know, with revised treaties and revised paperwork and revised ideas for money sourcing, and it was just constantly like that, with no, you know, with the promise of the funding. You know, he claimed to have sourced an infinite amount of money from somewhere, and it was very secretive. There was a lot of secrecy about where it was coming from, where it was coming from, who it was coming from, how it was being created, and it was based on this kind of a pyramid system that, you know, the money would filter down to the trusts, you know, around the country for us then to create this new reality and this new system. And you know, it was, like I say, it was just this constant going back to him to listen to him speak about his revised treaties. And
is that what we saw him reading in the video?
I think he
there?
was, reading his declaration of who he was and what he was up to, basically.
Right. So how did this apply to you?
Well, we're all to do it. We're all to you know, remove ourselves from the UK as a state,
right,
and become an autonomous community,
right,
a new state living within the system, being funded by this guy's infinite source of English currency,
right,
British currency.
That's
to
not
fund
pound sterling then.
Well, yeah, it was pound sterling. It would have been. It would have been. It would have been when it reached us.
Right.
To build our new community, and then eventually replace with a sweat equity community, as I said. And it just got to the point where it was just constant. Hopes were getting up, you know, it's really going to happen, and we can all go and live together in the community, and, you know, start farming and start, you know, doing what we really want to do, and there was, you know, the money never came, so we left eventually, and it just gave me a view of the system. Actually, for myself, I'm finding that if we can use the system to work for us, it can be highly effective.
Oh, yeah.
You know, what these people do that are heading up these movements, it's the same with the Sasha Stone guy with that's looking at the New Earth Society. He's from what I can see, he's heading that. I don't know if he's just the face of it or whether it's his idea. I've yet to research that properly. But
why do we need a new Earth?
Well, this is it. They're all, you know, advocating that we reject the current system, and that we hop over and escape into another system or another reality, when, you know, here is where the problem is. Here is where the problem is right now. Let's heal this system.
Because we've got a wonderful planet.
It's
perfectly great.
You know, I don't see an answer in escapism. I personally don't see an answer in escapism. I see an answer in remedying the current situation with what we can. How can we use this system effectively? How can we apply, you know, what we know to this system so that it works for us, you know?
Right. And it seems to be very focused around this one man. What was his name again?
Michael of Benicia. I don't know what his birth name is, but he's given himself the name Benicia. I think it's to do with the place. I'm not 100% sure. You'd have to check it out yourself. But
so
his
Michael,
vision,
then.
his vision and his intent was great. This is what drew us. You know, it was just amazing. It really spoke to my heart. You know, it really spoke to my soul. Which he's very good. He's a very good speaker. He's very charismatic. You know, and when we used to go to meetings, you know, there was always a sense that Michael was in the room. You know, there's this kind of buzz in the crowd. You know, and that's great. You know,
Hitler was a great orator.
Yeah.
And a vegetarian.
He's a great guy. No, by no means am I saying that, you know, comparing him to Hitler.
No, of course not. I was being facetious.
But I know, but there's definitely this sense of awe, I think, that these men carry.
Right.
And women sometimes. That we're looking for something. We're looking for leadership, like we said before the video. We're looking for something different, and they seem to, because they've got the intellect, they've done the research. you know, their intentions may be pure. However, something's not working, is it? You know?
So where are these people coming from then? Where is Michael coming from? What's his background?
I think his background was media.
Okay.
He was in the film industry. That's all I know, really. I couldn't elaborate on it.
Interesting. There's
yeah.
very little info about this man.
And I have heard him say that he had you know, huge financial success at one point in his life and lost it. That's what I've heard him say in one of his meetings. And you know, his whole life experience has led him up to where he is now. He has his realizations, his spiritual awakenings, you know. These stories are very convincing and you know, I'm sure they're true for him, but that's, you know, the clip at the end of the little bit that we showed on with the clips of the Messiahs there, him talking about his rights. Now, I think what gets me with that is, you know, he's expressing his rights to do this, his rights to do that, blah, 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 blah. I think for any true leader, we need to be inclusive and not talk about my rights, but our rights, you know.
Yes.
I think it's all in the language. It is all in the language. He may be, you know, be talking about us all collectively. However, his language is saying something very different.
Isn't it just?
You know,
that, I mean, when I watched that while we were editing it, it was all me, 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 me.
Yeah, and of course he is. You know, we're all infinite consciousness. We're all the creator. But as long as I'm saying it's me, I'm the creator, people are going to go, ooh, you know, because they don't realise they are as well. So once we start to say to people, yes, we all are, we're all the creators, we can get down on a ground level and say, what can we do collectively? What can we do? How can we remedy this system? We are this system. We are the system, you know. This is what we need to see.
But that means handing over control of your concept, doesn't it? If you're the Messiah that's bringing this ideal, you've then got to hand it over and give it away, haven't you?
Yes, yeah, that's it. Yeah. So, like I said, I'm sure intentions are good, and I'm sure that the vision is pure.
But Mike the Messiah didn't.
Somewhere.
Yeah, Mike the Messiah didn't do it for you, did he?
No. No, I'm afraid not. His vision was great. We shared a vision. I mean, I never really got to meet him properly. You know, it was only through meetings and to sit in his audience. You know,
right.
Groupies. You know, and so I never really got to know him on a personal level. However, you know, he did collect quite a gathering, and I know his gathering, he does still have quite a a big group of people that are into his work. But as far as I'm aware, this money still hasn't manifested to create this new system. So, yeah.
So beware of messiahs.
Beware of messiahs. Yeah, beware of messiahs. I definitely think that we are. You know.
I mean, if you look in the Bible in the New Testament, that says, you know, people will come and proclaim themselves to be the Messiah, and you've got to be very discerning.
Definitely.
Very discerning about who you trust, who you give your faith to, I suppose.
Ultimately, yeah, that they're, you know, the message that they're carrying might be a pure one, but if it asks you to do anything that's, I don't know, not in alignment with what's good for you, then that's not good, is it? You know, I think that, as we saw a lot of David Icke on that bit there as well. I mean, and I've spoken to Sonia Poulton a bit on this, and she worked with him on The People's Voice.
Yes.
And she was saying she's literally seen people fall at his feet. You've saved me, you know. I mean, no one person can truly save another, you know. Even, you know, do we really need saving? Are we really in need of saving, or are we just fine as we are? We just need to tweaking slightly, maybe, you know, looking at things differently.
Well, I always take a libertarian point of view that you leave me alone and I'll leave you alone, and just let me get on and live my life how I want.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll let you do what you want. You know.
I mean, in terms of, you know, the Michael Benicia business, there was no malicious intent there. I really don't think there is. However, there's nothing solid in it. That's, you know, I think that's what kind of disillusioned, really, that there was, you know.
Right. So you kind of went in as a family. You came out as a family. How have you moved away and moved on from that community, that group now?
I got quite heavily into applying Freeman theories and practices, you know, rejection of financial system, etc., and completely destroyed my credit.
Okay.
any credit that I could get is all gone, and that's fine, you know. I take full responsibility for that. However, I don't really know what it was. I married a gypsy,
right?
And I think I had a couple of years of seeing what life was like without.
See, I was going to mention
anything.
I was going to mention them as a community, and there are lots of communities that up and down this country that work outside of our system, and the gypsy community is one of them.
They do. However, amongst the community, you know, drugs, alcohol, fighting, it's rife. It's absolutely rife, and I couldn't see anything spiritually productive going on. I couldn't see any spiritual growth there. It was all just stuck in the, you know, the depths and the darkness of the abuses, you know. And I mean, that was just my experience of it. You know, don't forget, I you know, haven't any other experience to speak of, but I realised that that's not what I wanted. You know, I like my country. I like my system. And I want to heal it from within. I want to change it, you know. I don't want to go running off with the gypsies. I don't want to go running off to create a new earth, you know. What I want is to stay here with people that I love, and let's see how we can change things together. Let's see how we can make things better, how we can make it work for us without looking to another leader or to...
Because we were chatting during that video, and we agreed we've got a perfectly wonderful planet. The system, the infrastructures are all in place. It's just the control and the use of them, isn't it?
And the relationship that we have with them. Now, you know, ideally we'd all be governing ourselves and we would be an autonomous community, ideally. But that's not...
A narco-syndicalist commune, I think is the word.
Right, okay. But that's not... People on an individual level aren't ready. You know, what we were finding with the UCT was we were having meetings, you know, local meetings with the local families, and there was just so much tit for tat, and you know, we couldn't get on as a group of sort of 15, 20 people. How are we going to do this globally, you know?
And what about the people outside the community? So where you live, you said there were 15 families that you were involved with as a community, but what about
next door neighbours?
Yeah, next door neighbours. What about those people?
No, this is it. And you know, it was based on the fact that they'd be drawn to it, you know, eventually. And yeah, there might be. It might work for them. I don't know, but for us at the time, it wasn't working. It was very dysfunctional, and there was nothing being achieved. Absolutely nothing being achieved. We tried to pool our skills. We tried to come together to, you know, to share skills and to share labour, but it just didn't work. It just didn't happen because there was too much stuff in between everybody. You know, too much ego, way too much ego. So how on earth is that going to happen globally if we can't get on with our next door neighbours or get on with the family up the road? We need to clear ourselves out so that we can start connecting with the immediate people that are around us, you know, so that we can then grow from there, grow outwards. Escapism for me is not the answer.
That seems to be something that these messiahs are preaching, isn't it? We're going to come out of this society. We're going to take you away from it.
Yeah.
You're going to come and all live together in
perfect harmony, man.
In a farm piece, you know, whatever. You know.
Yeah, it might work for some, and if they're in their little bubbles doing it and successfully doing it, that's great. That's absolutely great.
But what about those that are out for money, fame, celebrity?
Yeah. What about them?
Yeah. What do we do, and can we identify those people? What do we look for?
What do we look for? Lots of talk about the eye.
Okay.
and the self and me.
Right.
You know, me.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I mean, like I said, it's got to be a collective. It's got to be a collective effort, hasn't it? And like, you know, I will reinforce what I've said about Michael there. You know, I'm sure he was talking collectively. However, his language suggests
As somebody who's-
subconsciously that he is a special man.
Yeah.
We're all special people. But if you're talking to a group of people that don't have a level of realization that they are special and that they are capable of creating something special, then they're gonna latch on to those that are dictating that they are special. You know,
See, when I was watching that while we were editing it later, earlier, I've never seen the man before. I've never heard him speak before. But that whole piece was, I am resurrected, or, you know, I get enlightenment from the, you know, the last century and this 70th decade business, and I do this, and I'm sovereign, and I'm supreme, and I was just sitting there and saying, I want to punch you in the face.
This is it. This is the effect it has on some people, you know, because, you know, we're all sovereign.
Yeah.
We are all sovereign.
Yeah.
And if somebody wants to take a stance and a position of authority to make something move and to change something and to create something, I do believe we have to get down there and say, right, let's do it together. You know, not stand on a stage with your arms spread wide saying, I am, because that's not going to work, is it? That's just going to create followers and puppets.
And I'll go out on a limb and say that's exactly what Ike is doing.
Maybe.
That's my.
What do you think?
That's my personal opinion. I think Ike is seeking to draw his disciples to him, and anybody that, you know, go to an arena like that and get people to spend lots and lots of money and spend 8 or 10 hours listening to one speak.
Yeah. Language is important. You know, it really. I mean, it is so powerful. It is the most powerful tool we've got to that we create this reality with. So look at the language that's being used by these people. You know.
Yeah. Because there are lots out there at the moment, and there are more to come.
Oh yeah.
There's a new one popping up every week, I imagine.
Yeah.
Every few days there'll be a new one come along. I encountered an American gentleman who was very nice, very pleasant. He was he called himself a lifestyle guru, and a lot of the things that he was saying, I was interviewing him, but a lot of the things that he was saying were incredibly positive.
Yeah.
But it did entail spending a day sitting and listening to him talking about him. Not us, not
him,
we, but I do this,
Yeah.
and I say this, and I have discovered this.
Yeah, I think naturally we do want to. I mean, inspirational speakers have their place, I think, don't they?
Yeah, of
Because
course they do.
I've been inspired by people talking about how they've evolved in their life, or how they've come to where they are,
done it.
how they've succeeded. Yeah,
I've been one of those speakers.
yeah, that's great. That's great. However, when you're trying to move a group of people with it, it becomes something quite different, doesn't it?
I've never proclaimed myself to be anything other than a bald bloke from Sheffield, you know, you know, who's had lots of life experiences and has come out of it and wants to share those life experiences. And it's something I'm going to do a video with it.
That's it. I don't, you know, when David Icke stood up there, I don't think he's sharing life experience, is he?
No. It's theory.
It's his theory and his idea. It's not life experience, there's a difference. I think there's a very big difference. And I think that we can intuit as well with people. But a lot of us are cut off from our intuition. There's so many of us now because of, you know, the reality of life. Our intuition isn't as strong as it could be. So, you know, when you're listening to somebody, how do you feel? You know? How do you feel about what this person's saying?
Yeah.
Your gut instinct will tell you, won't it? You know?
Definitely. So, prior to Mike the Messiah, Messiah Mike, had you followed any other of these kinds of people, these types of people? Had you kind of handed your trust over to them?
No, not really.
Right. And since?
Since
leaving the community and kind of stepping away and going, it's not working?
No. I mean, I'm keen for answers all the time. I'm always searching for something. You know, I can't stop searching for some kind of answer to this, some kind of answer.
We all are in different ways,
some kind
aren't
of
we?
solution.
Yeah.
You know, because things, you know, I'm not happy personally with the way my life is. You know, so, and many of us are like that. I think. You know, we are searching for something. So when somebody pops their head up and says, "Oh, I've got the answer. Look at this. Oh, it's shiny. Look at this."
Yeah.
You know, people do. They naturally
Why don't we try this new currency, or why don't we, you know?
Yeah. So we have to strengthen ourselves so that we don't get pulled off in every direction by these.
Because it is so easy. Because we are malleable, aren't we? We are plastic beings in that respect.
We are, we are, and you know we're group animals as well. We're herd animals. We like to be together. You know, we're social. We're very social. So it's easy to just go with the crowd. But yeah, just check how you're feeling about somebody speaking to you. And
bigger isn't always better, is it?
No. And what were you saying about the word? If the word said a certain amount of times, it reinforced, it becomes
it's part of a mind control technique, or enforcing a particular concept that you repeat it. Neil's spoken about it quite extensively, and I'm sure Dave knows quite a lot about this, but it's something where in an article, in a speech, if you repeat love several times and you space it out and you put it in at very key points, you emphasize it in various ways, the vast majority of people will just go, "Oh, he loves me."
They've just connected to that word.
And most people will just connect to that particular message, but it's got to be repeated. And if you repeat something enough, it becomes the truth, doesn't it?
Of course it does. It becomes your reality.
I'm quoting Hitler again. It's very easy to because you can see the similarities between these people who've come up on the world stage, whether it be politically or spiritually or something. I think of Billy Graham as well, the American preacher.
Right.
You know, he died recently, but you know, back in the 80s here, he was filling football stadiums.
Right. Yeah.
And people were, you know, "Oh, Billy Graham's coming! Wow, he's gonna save our community. He's gonna reignite Christianity in the UK."
It's
wonderful!
Your Christ complex, isn't it? This kind of looking for the saviour, you know, because we all need saving. Do we? Do we need saving?
I don't need saving from anything.
I don't need saving. I need saving from myself. That's about it.
I need saving from chocolate.
But it's
so they come in all shapes and sizes, and they come from all over the world. They're not just all, you know, Indian gurus. You know, I mean, the Beatles went off with their guru and came back and went all, you know, peace and love and everything.
Yeah, I mean, there's some good in it, as we know. There's some really, you know, learn to love one another, of course, you know, of course. But we shouldn't have to be told to learn to love one another, should we, really?
Of course not.
We've been destroyed to such a degree, our souls have been destroyed to such a degree that we have to be told. You know, you've got to look at the bigger picture, what's going on, you know, what's going on? Why do we have to look to somebody else to teach us how to love? Why don't we just know? We can't. Babies don't have to be told how to love, they just love. Animals don't need to be told how to love, they just do it.
Children are wonderful examples because they don't need to be taught how to socialise, how to communicate, play. They just get on with it.
They come perfect. They come perfect. And, you know,
children don't care where you're born or what colour you are.
Exactly.
They just want to play.
I know, that's it.
Like me, really, just want to play. And if it wasn't for all this junk, crap, nonsense, whatever you want to call it, New World Order, you know, political,
whatever you want to label it,
then that's what I'd be doing. I wouldn't be sat here.
Of course.
I mean, as lovely as you are, I wouldn't be sat here chatting to you. I'd be out, you know, doing something I want to do.
Yeah, of course, of course. But so why are we looking to be taught how to love? We look to religion to be taught how to love, don't we? Christ, you know, we look to these people to say, this is how you do it. This is why you should do it, and this is what you're going to get for doing it. I mean, it's elementary, really.
Do you think it's feeding on a human need?
A need for love.
Yeah.
Need for love,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, the spiritual principle is that, you know, love thyself. You love yourself, you won't need love from anybody else. But, you know, love from other people is what we get. It's what makes life, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, I think you can go too far to the other end of that spiritual kind of spectrum and just live life loving yourself, man? Yeah, that's fine. But what about if I wanted to love my partner? What if I want to love my children? Yeah, okay, I can love myself, but where's the joy in sharing with each other? You know, I think especially with the New Age movement, there's so much emphasis put on loving yourself, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
But you know, we get a lot from each other. We get an awful lot from each other. We shouldn't negate that. We shouldn't forget that. I think we're encouraged to sometimes with the New Age movement as well.
So if somebody's deep into one of these communities, or they're following a messiah, or they're thinking, hold on a minute, is this right? Like, I mean, you must have done that. What would you say to them? Difficult question, I know, but difficult to answer. But
yeah, is this right for you? Is this just does it feel right? It goes back to the gut again, you know, the gut feeling that, how does this person make you feel? How do they make you feel? Do you feel uneasy? Do you feel, you know? Mind you, I say that, I kind of went into it all trusting, and I was encouraged. I will say that I was encouraged by a friend who had discovered it, who I gave a lot of kudos to and kind of really trusted. So I trusted her judgment actually from the offset. So perhaps just practice, getting into you.
Yeah.
How do I really feel about it? It's easy to follow, but stay still.
And you've got to have some self-belief and follow what you believe, haven't
That's
you?
it, yeah. Discover what you believe, discover what you think. Do your research, you know.
Don't drink the Kool-Aid. Don't drink the Kool-Aid.
Don't drink the Kool-Aid, yeah. But it is all very cultish.
We've kind of skipped around the cult thing, haven't we?
It's a bit of a should we, shan't we?
Because I think I said to you during the video, didn't I? Should we use the word utopia?
There's so many of them out there. People are looking for a new reality, and that's fine. But just be, you know, stay real, keep it real. Look at what you've already got in your life. Yes. How can we enhance what we've already got? And the answer for me always comes back to spirituality. Comes back to the soul. Comes back to meditation, getting to know who I am, and then, you know, your kind of truth radar, whatever you want to call it, you know, it gets stronger, and you know what's right and what's wrong around you, you know. So you will, if you you know, meditate and stay still and look after yourself.
Meditation's a big part of your life, isn't it?
It is, yeah, because it keeps me still, because I'm prone to dashing off all over the place. You know, I'm a very kind of wired person. I can be incredibly wired, you know, and quite fiery and passionate, you know, but it doesn't always serve me. You know, it's got me in some pretty sticky situations sometimes, I can assure you. So I've had to learn to sit still and to listen to myself and to you know, practice self-restraint. And in that, the miracles are that I've learned who I really am, not what all this external stimulus tells me that I am. Oh, I want to be famous. Oh, I want to be a pop star. Oh, I want to be an artist, you know. Yeah, of course I do. I love music, I love art, you know, but instead of jumping off and running away with it all, I'm going to stay still and enjoy the process. Enjoy the process of being creative. Right. You know, and then you get to know who you are. So
Cheryl Smale, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
It's been fantastic chatting to you. I've not had a lot of reason to look into this kind of thing.
Okay, yeah.
So going through the videos, hearing what you've said has been fantastic.
Yeah.
It's been really eye-opening.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna do a bit of a feature on it anyway for us to use in the future.
On Friday, we're going to do
Yeah, we'll
some
see if
more,
we can
aren't
get something done by Friday and do a bit of a longer feature on it.
Put a bit more of a video piece together. Have another discussion. We mentioned Ike there. There was another gentleman as well, apart from Messiah Mike.
Sacha Stone. Oh, Eckhart Tolle,
yes,
who was an incredibly kind of grassroots kind of not new age kind of teacher, but and some of his stuff's fantastic, his early work. But then Oprah Winfrey got hold of him, turned him into a superstar, and just lost all of his kind of earthed, reasonable, common sense teachings. You know, it just, for me, it did anyway.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay, well, we'll have a look at him on Friday, and we'll probably have another look at Ike. I'll keep mentioning Ike because he's so high profile.
Oh, he is. He's probably the biggest player around at the minute, isn't he?
So he's one that we need to really look into as well.
Yeah.
And there is a documentary being produced about him, and LPN is producing that. So we're going to move on. I'm going to be joined after 6 p.m. on 1800 Online by Dave Eden. Going to be looking at some more news stories, and I've got some more videos to show you. One of them about chemtrails as well, a very specific one, and that's all coming up at 6 o'clock. Stay tuned, and we'll be back very, very soon.